Hey, this is Eric, and today I want to talk about measuring load time with request metrics. Load time is one of the most fundamental metrics for measuring your site's performance. And in request metrics, we surface that information in a lot of different ways. So here on the dashboard, we can see that we show the median, the 75th percentile, and the 95th percentile of the load time. Here we're looking at the last 30 days of some traffic to requestmetrics.com itself. In addition to those pills at the top, if we scroll down, we'll see there's a load over time chart as well as a load histogram. The load over time chart is really useful to see trends in your P75 or median or P95 load performance. You can also get a sense of the amount of traffic that was coming in at these times. So for example, we can see here there's quite a bit more page activity than normal, but it was from slower browsers and slower users, which caused a spike in the P75 load. The load histogram is useful because it'll show you the breakdown and kind of the distribution of your load times. You can see if they're all trending one way or the other. In our case, we've got quite a bit of good performing page loads, but then there are quite a few orange and red outliers that we might need to take a look at. And finally, we have what's called the page lifecycle timing waterfall. And this is a useful breakdown of all of the different pieces that make up page load. So you've got DNS, SSL, server time, which is often a slow point. So if the server takes a long time to respond because of heavy database activity or something else, that'll show up here. And then we've got two other sections, blocking assets and client load time. Now, blocking assets are things like CSS and fonts that are coming down before the page is fully rendered or ready. The client time is things that are still loading, but the DOM is interactive, but load has not fired yet. In addition to the dashboard, we have a whole load section that we can access to really investigate and drill down and learn more about our site's performance. So now that we're in the load performance section of request metrics, we can see we've got that same load over time chart as well as the page load histogram. But what's new on this page is a table that breaks down all of your URLs and the performance for each of them. So this is useful so you can see if you've got some URLs that are performing better or worse than others. And in our case, it's pretty clear that login is not performing as well as some of the other parts of the site. And once we've identified a URL that's not performing as well as we'd like, or we want to investigate further, we can click in. And now we'll be drilled into a view that is focused specifically on that URL or URL group. And again, we've got the load histogram so we can see that distribution. And in this case, it doesn't look good for this page. We can see that there's a lot of orange and red and things are very slow. Same with the load over time chart. That 20-second P75 is not so great. We can look at the page lifecycle timings as well. And that's showing us that the server time isn't the issue. So it's not like something's taking a long time to get back to the client. What's really taking a long time is the blocking assets and other client resources. So one thing that we can do to drill into that page lifecycle timing waterfall is click on each row, and that will show us a histogram of all of the client time breakdown for all of the page loads for that URL. Same with the blocking asset time breakdown. And here we can see it's pretty clear that the client time has a normal distribution. Some are fast, some are slow, and that can depend a lot on geography and browser and all kinds of things. But the blocking asset time breakdown is almost always slow. So that would be a good place to start investigating. And of course, in order to start investigating, we have a ton of options. So in this table, there's a set of tabs. The first tab is going to be the recent page loads. So this is individual requests to this URL. And you can see we've got the load, the browser, the worst vital, the country, and all of that. We have other tabs as well. You can investigate by user to see if there's one specific user that's causing the problem. You can look by geography to see if, for example, people in Australia are having a harder time than people in the US, although in this case it looks like it's about equal. And you can also break it down by browser if you want to see, is it Firefox, is it Chrome, is it a lot of bot traffic from headless crawlers, that kind of thing. But in our case, we're just going to look, for example, at one of these most recent page loads to get an idea of what could be causing the problem. And this is a page view details, and there's a ton of information on here. So we've got the load, we've got, is it fast relative to this page, this URL? And we can see that it is. We can see the distribution trends heavily slower. But we also have, how fast is it relative to the application, to the site as a whole? And here we can see that the performance is not so good. We've got information about the client's network connection where available. We've got information about the core web vitals, which we'll talk about later. And then we've got a page load waterfall. And so this is a really granular view of what exactly happened, what loaded on the page, when did it load, what else was going on. So we can see that we've got that long blocking asset time like we expected. part of the problem is we have a very long animation frame that appears to be taking about 5 seconds. We can see that loading main.js was 613 milliseconds of that. And as we keep looking, we can see that really there's quite a lot of these blocking assets. This first wave of resources coming down is taking a long time. We can see the stop sign icon represents that they're blocking render, and the tortoise icon signifies that they're slower than we think they should be. So these would be great things to start looking at in terms of, hey, how often are these cached? How are they being served? What protocol? Is there something we can do to prevent them from blocking rendering? Maybe they're in the head tag. Maybe they could be in the body tag. So these are all things that you can start investigating. And of course, there's more to it. If we want to find out more about why this JS file is slow, we can pop open the analysis of it to see what its P75 usually is. We go out and get the cache headers to see if there's a caching problem. And there's even a full details page for each one of these resources inside the system that we'll cover in a later video. The main takeaway today is that we surface load in a variety of ways. So we let you drill in to figure out what's causing slow load, and you can take it as far as you want.